Hey guys, I know I did a color tutorial and it had to do with color mixing. And some of you may have watched it, have even followed into the links into another gentleman's applications of color mixing. This one I want to do as a kind of color in application. And the reason this is important is it's all great to know how your colors mix together, what happens when you get yellow Hansa and ultramarine blue and all these other colors, but it's also important to train your eye in being able to pick up the certain colors in your reference material. So we're going to kind of go over that. We're also going to go over being able to know maybe when a shot, if you're doing your own reference material, which I always encourage you to use your own. But maybe when a shot is left alone and when it would make a better piece of artwork than a photograph. So last year I went to the Brookfield Zoo down in Illinois. And down at the Brookfield Zoo they have painted dogs. They have a whole pack of painted dogs. And the first time I went, and I went past the enclosure, they were all sleeping. Then it rained. And when I came back, they were all playing. And there was some interesting postures that I got and some interesting shots that I got. So in the lower right-hand corner, right about here, we're going to put the reference shot on the screen. And the reason we're going to do the reference shot on the screen is I'm going to bring up my first point. And my first point has to do with difference between a shot on your monitor and a shot on print. Now in the piece that I've got in the shot right now, this one right here, a lot of you guys like to ask what paper I'm using. When I'm doing those black and white tutorials, like the cat tutorials, those are very much just in a $5 sketch pad. I'm not really concerned with the tooth or the grade of the paper. It's just so I can teach you guys the techniques that I'm using to get my artwork done. In this case, because this piece is up for sale when it's done, I am concerned about the tooth of the paper and the quality of the paper. So I like to use, let's put this the right way. I'm going with the reflection of the mirror. Alright, so we're using Strathmore Bristol. This is the smooth surface. And that's because ideally I want the technique that I'm using to bring the hair out to predominate over the texture of the paper. Okay, so we're using Bristol, Strathmore is the brand name, and it's Bristol Smooth. Okay, and so here's our first point. So this is the same shot as I had it printed out, and this is a really, it's a nice position. It's a strong picture. However, there's a couple of things wrong with it. Overall, it's really, really dark. Like I said, the dogs had been playing because it had rained, and so when I took this as really, really overcast, I had walked out of their grade ape house and walked outside, and I'm not sure if I didn't adjust the settings on my camera again, but a lot of the shots are all this dark. The composition is a real strong composition. However, I might point to my bob. Right around here it gets kind of fuzzy. Okay, the area around the head and the eye is real strong, but overall this whole shot is way too dark. Okay, so we're gonna, by magic television, put this on the screen. Now on the screen, the color shows much better. In this printed version, there's a lot of blues. The greens don't show up real well, and the browns and the golds are really muted, which gets into your color mixing. Also in this printed version, you can't see a lot of the definition in the eye and the muzzle. I mean, really, if I were to use this right off this sheet, I would probably drive myself nuts trying to find out the definition of the mouth right here versus in the shot that's on my screen, I can clearly see where the mouth comes up here and that there's a highlight around here on the mouth. In this printed version, there's no definition where the cheek ruff comes up versus the neck hair. I literally cannot even find the definition for that. The whites aren't really white, and so after I printed this out thinking I was going to go mobile with this and work on it elsewhere other than the studio, I seriously had to reconsider my options. So, and applied color mixing. How does this affect my color mixing? Well, if I look on the printed version, and we are going to go back and forth with the printed version, in this area here on the printed version, you can generally see where the reflection in the eye is. You can, by knowledge of the animals and the other reference shots, I know that this dog has a brown eye. I know that this area of the face is ticked brown and is gold, and there generally is marking, but the overall muzzle is black. However, it's very flat. If I look on my reference picture, or if I look on the shot on the monitor, I can see that there's a highlight on the nose here. There's some bleeding and ticking that comes down of the brown, and the blonde that comes out from over here comes down. Come on down. The area around the eye is black, but there is a highlight on the cheek here. Again, with more black here, that is a darker black with less blue in it to define the cheek and where it comes out effectively at the viewer. So you have a little bit of foreshortening here. Some foreshortening in the muzzle here. And then, of course, we have some foreshortening here. That does not all get translated in the photograph so well when I print the photograph. Also, I have the option, if I draw this up versus printing it up, to clarify some of the blurriness that's over here and clean up his legs here, because they were running around in the mud. So his legs are a little bit muddy. Okay. When you're looking at blacks in the outdoor environment, black typically reflects the strongest color around it. In this case, the sky was the strongest color around it, even though the background is green from foliage from the next enclosure. He had an open access to a clear sky, so the sky becomes the prominent color, so it reflects blue. So rather than do blue and black, and this is where you kind of have to learn how black reflects. Sometimes it reflects red, sometimes it reflects blue, sometimes it reflects green. Instead of doing a simple way of just saying, okay, well, it's black and therefore it shades black, so we're black, white, gray, and tones of gray. We're going to bring this guy out a little bit, so we've got the equivalent of ultramarine blue, the equivalent of cerulean blue in pencils, and I am kind of cheating. I've got some rose art pencils in with my Prisma colors. And I would also recommend, if you're working in Prisma colors or if you're working in pencil at all, have a piece of paper on the side that is not part of your finished piece, and test out how those colors lay on the paper. Just because this is the equivalent to my eye of cerulean blue, that does not mean that when it lays on the paper it's going to lay down cerulean blue. Same thing with a lot of these browns. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 browns in here, and while they're all in the brown family, some of them lay down a little bit more red. Some of them lay down a little cooler or warmer, and that all affects how you would mix them. In my menagerie here, we'll back this up so I don't have to quite do this all in the menagerie of pencils I've also got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different versions of yellow or sienna. And this one literally is called sienna. However, if you've watched any tutorials with me painting in acrylics, what would drive me nuts is I don't know if this is a raw sienna or a burnt sienna, and this color is nowhere near, by an acrylic palette, a sienna. This is more of a cross between a yellow ochre and something else. This bronze yellow. I still have several different varieties of brown in here, not brown, gray in here. So it's cloud gray. This is a little bit of a warmer gray. This is a warm gray. This is a Prisma color, and this is actually cool gray. So of course everything depends on what effect you're going for. Turn this puppy around. The other thing that's very hard about doing colored pencils is that you have very generic names. Like this one that's a rose art one is just literally named brown. I have, let's see, this is a Prisma color that's light umber, and yet I have a dark umber here. So I mean, unless you're really familiar, you do a lot of colored pencil work, set out a piece of paper with your colors so that you know how they're going to lay down in front of them with other ones. Another thing that I would advise, especially when going between a print and a screenshot, is that you want to train your eye to break down these colors. The reason that this one pops as well as it does, and when I get it done it will pop as well as it does, is because I've taken the time to look, get my point on my bob again, and I've brought the highlight out in the eye, and this is actually quite a bit lighter. So as an artist, and you've decided that this makes a better drawing than a photograph, so you're going to re-render this and by hand. Figure out what areas of the photograph you like, and figure out what areas of the photographs you don't like. And it's not uncommon for me to take a piece of paper and write that down with my color samples. And say, I like the intense look of this eye, but I don't like how dark it is in the shot, so I really want to lighten it up and bring some light into that eye. I like how cut the muzzle looks, however, we lose the definition in the shot of the definition of the muscle, and how the skin folds down, and how reflective black can be, and I'd like to bring that out, which I did. I have one color here that actually on the pencil looks black, but this is actually a blue pencil, and it's indigo blue, however it writes purple. So my eye picks it up as purple, is labeled as a blue, and on the pencil itself, because of the intensity of the color, it looks black. So that's, again, getting into check your pencils and make sure that they're actually going to lay the color down that you want. When mixing colors, take the time before you start your finished piece and check to see how your pencils interact with each other. Right in this area, after really studying the shot for a while, I noticed that the brown does interact with the purple in a way that actually increases the darkness. It gives a reflection here, but it's almost a negative reflection. It almost absorbs the light while still reflecting a blue color cast. We do have a highlight here around the lips, where the lip is pulled back around the edge of the mouth, and you may default to saying, okay, well then I'm just going to add white. Now, I do have white in my arsenal of pencils that I'm using to do this piece. However, I'm using white in this case as a blender. I'm not using it to actually highlight anything. It's merely to soften some of these edges. Some places in this shot where I would be tempted to fall into a trap, and it's almost like the white trap. Right in the area here, where this part of the ruff and the part of the neck is a little light. Okay, and then it comes into a gold color, and then we get into these black markings and these blotchy markings. I might be tempted to leave this white. However, in order to give it depth, I have to add some shadow to it. In this case, I would probably be good in adding a little bit of the cloud gray. Okay, just so that we're giving it some punch. We got to push some of this back and some of it to the front. Okay. And very rarely, and almost without trying to blanket statement anything, you're very rarely ever going to find a pure white in nature. Case in point, up here, and I have it marked out, there is white marks. There's a really big white mark on this guy. But when I look at it with my eye, I'm not looking at the screenshot as being white. Against the black and against the copper tones back here, yes, it's definitely a white color. If I were to describe a painted dog, I would say they're gold, black, and white, or chestnut, black, and white. They're blotchy colored. Their colors are real strong. However, when I'm actually applying color in this piece, there's going to be a lot of blues and grays and some browns in there. Like right in here, there's some browns. In order to give that the rounded definition that it needs in order to become part of the dog and not just a random lack of color. As we're going through in here, in fact right in here, and I don't even have it marked out very well, there is a white spot that lies right next to a black spot and some blotchiness of the browns. Black is not going to be a true black. It's going to be like here in the muzzle. And as I'm looking at it, yeah, there's some definite lines in here, and that's why I've got a line drawing going on. Because breaking this down, I can easily lose where the markings are. And I'm not looking to exactly duplicate the picture. As I've already, said, when I print this out, and I could just easily just print this out and say, well, there's a painted dog. The whole idea of re-rendering this in another media is to do one better than the picture. So I would probably go through and really emphasize some of the graininess of the fur here. I would definitely keep my strokes with the shoulder fur here, and so this ruff here comes down like this, and then we come up around the shoulder muscles here, and then it comes back here. So when I'm doing a finished rendering on this, I would make sure to keep my strokes with the directionality of the fur. Because we lose some of the focus here, and I don't know if there was maybe a raindrop on my lens or whatever, it would be the same thing here. I would keep with the really strong blue tones. I would probably get into that dark indigo blue, which actually, as I said before, comes off as a purple, and use the indigo blue, and this gets back into the color mixing that we did with the acrylic paints. I would probably use that indigo blue with a brown umber, and then come back in with black, because I don't want these blacks to look real flat. Okay, and when I say real flat, we're talking the difference between, let me get in and zoom in right here. Okay, this is the effective black color. I mean, your brain is going to register it's got a black muzzle. But in this muzzle shot, there's probably 15 different colors. Everywhere from, you know, the bronze yellows that are up here, and the burnt umbers and the browns, to the purples and the blues, okay, which kind of give this a very reflective, shiny, glossy kind of appearance without being obnoxiously shiny. When we're talking flat, we're going to talk about this here, which is just black, okay? When you're doing black fur, whether you're doing a cat, a dog, a horse, if you're doing long hair or short hair, black is not ever just black. Black is always blues and reds and purples and browns and the reflected surfaces around it. So when you're doing that, that would be my hugest tip, is whenever you're doing white or black, you're never just doing white or black. There's always the surrounding colors that reflect into and reflect off of that one color. Alright, so I'm going to get back to working on this this guy. And I may or may not do a speed tutorial on this guy. I did kind of cheat, and I did start this guy without you. And I was trying to figure out how I was going to apply this to my tutorials as they were going along. But I think the best way I can say it is really watch how you're doing your color mixing. And when you're looking at your resources, whether it's a printed photo, boop, or if you're doing a digital monitor where you can project your image into a monitor, be careful of how you're looking at it and make sure you're dissecting your colors in the way that would really accent your piece rather than to become very flat and simplistic. Alright? Have a good day, guys. Bye.